Someone falls overboard from a cruise ship at 2 in the morning. The ship is over 300 meters long. It carries 5,000 passengers and several hundred crew. There are cameras mounted along every deck. There is a federal law, an actual law, requiring detection technology to be in place. So here is the question. How long before the ship knows? The answer most people would guess is seconds, maybe a minute. The cameras saw it. The system triggered. Someone on the bridge is already responding. That gap between what people assume and what is actually happening is not a small technical oversight. It is a structural feature of how the cruise industry has built, regulated, and enforced passenger safety for the past 2 decades. And once you see how it works, the ship you thought was watching you looks like something else entirely. Start with the cameras. Every modern cruise ship has them, hundreds of lenses mounted along the corridors, the decks, the stairwells, the exterior rails. Passengers see cameras and reasonably conclude that somewhere someone is watching. That is not what the cameras are for. The cameras exist primarily to manage liability and onboard behavior. They record. But recording is not monitoring. On most ships, the external cameras pointed at the water are not staffed in real time. Nobody is sitting in front of a wall of screens at 2 in the morning watching the ocean go past. When a person goes missing and a crew member suspects something happened, the response is not to check a live feed. It is to search the ship first, deck by deck, room by room. Then, if the search turns up nothing, someone sits down with hours of recorded footage from multiple cameras and starts rewinding. That process takes time, a lot of it. And the ocean does not pause. Here is the physics of that delay. A cruise ship at normal cruising speed moves through water at roughly 20 to 22 knots. In 15 minutes, it covers about 7 miles. If the alarm comes 30 minutes late, the ship is 14 miles from where the person entered the water. If discovery takes 2 hours, which documented cases show is common, the ship has moved over 50 miles. The ocean is not a flat, calm pool where a person floats in place waiting to be retrieved. Currents move, waves scatter, night falls. The Coast Guard does not search a small area. It searches everything the person could possibly have drifted to since the unknown moment of entry. In extreme cases, that search area expands to 5,000 square miles. To put that in terms that feel real, that is approximately the total land area of Connecticut. Somewhere in that space, there is one person. Fewer than 1 in 5 known overboard cases ends in a successful recovery. From 2000 to 2023, approximately 397 people went overboard from cruise ships and ferries. Between 2009 and 2019 alone, 212 incidents were recorded globally. Of those, 48 people were rescued. That is a survival rate of around 23%. And that figure only counts cases that were actually confirmed and tracked. The actual number may be higher because some disappearances that were logged as missing persons at sea may never have been confirmed as overboards at all. So the natural question is, why don't ships have systems that detect this immediately? The answer requires understanding a law that was designed to sound like a solution but was built to remain optional. In 2010, the United States passed the Cruise Vessel Security and Safety Act, the CVSSA. The law requires passenger vessels operating from American ports to integrate technology that can be used for, and here is the exact phrasing that matters, detecting passengers who have fallen overboard or capturing images of them. That word "or" is the entire story. The industry, during lobbying and negotiation, secured a standard that could be satisfied by CCTV cameras recording footage for later review. Not real-time detection, not automated alerts. Footage that a crew member can look through after the fact once someone has already been reported missing. The law that sounds like a mandate for detection is, by its own text, satisfied by a recording system that does nothing until the alarm has already been raised by a human being. That is regulatory compliance without operational protection. It is not illegal. It is, in fact, exactly what was agreed upon. The industry's defense of this position rests on 2 arguments. The first is the false alarm problem. Early automated overboard detection systems had a significant technical limitation. They triggered constantly. Birds triggered them. Wave spray triggered them. a hat blowing off a deck triggered them. And a false alarm on a ship carrying 5,000 people at sea is not a minor inconvenience. Stopping or maneuvering a vessel that large disrupts the entire voyage, creates safety complications of its own, and costs money in ways the industry calculates very carefully. Early MOB systems were genuinely unreliable. That was a real problem. The industry used it as a permanent excuse. The second argument was architectural. In 2010, the same year as the CVSSA, cruise ships were required to raise railing heights to a minimum of 42 inches. The industry's trade association, the Cruise Lines International Association, known as CLIA, then took a position that has remained largely unchanged, that since the railings were raised, overboard incidents are now exclusively the result of intentional or reckless acts. There are, CLIA has claimed, no known cases of someone acting responsibly who accidentally fell over the railing of a cruise ship. If overboards are always intentional or reckless, then they are not a design problem. They are a behavior problem. And a behavior problem is somebody else's fault. This framing is disputed by maritime safety advocates and researchers. Many overboard circumstances are never definitively established. Intoxication, medical events, disorientation, mechanical failure. The causes are often unknown. CLIA's position reassigns responsibility in a way that conveniently removes pressure from the industry to build better systems. So what does a real detection system actually look like? The kind that exists but most ships haven't installed? It is not a single sensor. It is a fused architecture. Micro radars scan the ship's exterior perimeter continuously, detecting mass and movement in the space beyond the railing. Thermal cameras read heat signatures. A human body radiates warmth that is distinguishable from ocean surface temperature, especially at night when most incidents occur. AI-trained video analytics run in parallel, filtering out everything that is not a person. Birds, spray, floating debris, rogue waves, equipment, marine animals. When the system identifies an event that matches the signature of a human falling, it triangulates. It records which deck the fall originated from. It logs the GPS coordinates of where the impact occurred. It timestamps the event to the second. An alert reaches the bridge in under 30 seconds. Two of the leading systems in this space, MOBtronic, built by the defense technology company Mars, and Zoe, developed by Edinburgh-based safety firm Xelim, operate at detection probabilities of 95% or higher. Zoe was trained on over 7 million maritime images and can identify a person in the water from 300 meters away with a detection probability of 96.8%, even in rough conditions and darkness. The ISO standard for overboard detection, finalized in 2020 after 4 years of collaboration between the cruise industry, technology developers, and regulators, sets the minimum bar at 95% detection probability and no more than one false alarm per day. The early system false alarm problem, the one the industry has used to justify non-adoption, has been solved. Now the cost. A full installation of MOBtronic on a ship over 300 meters long with 28 sensor stations runs to approximately $1 million. Entry-level configurations for smaller vessels start around $200,000. A new cruise ship costs between $1 and $2 billion to build. The detection system represents at most 0.1% of the ship's total construction cost. For a vessel that carries 5,000 people and operates year-round, generating hundreds of millions in annual revenue, the cost of watching the water is essentially rounding error. Disney Cruise Line installed automated MOB systems across its fleet. Disney did it. The technology worked. It was deployable at scale. It was not theoretical or experimental. It was a choice. A decision that a company made because it decided to make it. Carnival Corporation, which operates nearly 100 ships across multiple brands, had not installed automated MOB systems as of documented reporting through early 2025. Royal Caribbean, across its entire fleet, had not either. Both companies have cited system reliability concerns. Safety advocates argue those concerns reflect conditions that no longer exist in current technology. What the gap actually reflects is a regulatory environment with no meaningful enforcement. The CVSSA requires detection or image capture. CCTV cameras satisfy the image capture half. No automated system is legally required. Without a legal mandate and without liability consequences severe enough to change the math the economics of inaction hold. There is one more layer to this that most passengers never encounter directly, but they experience it every time it happens nearby. If someone goes overboard and a crew member or another passenger witnesses it, the ship does not announce it clearly over the intercom. The ship uses a code. On most major cruise lines, the phrase is Oscar, 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 occasionally Mr. MOB. The code triggers immediate action among trained crew. The bridge is notified, the GPS position is marked, the overboard protocols begin. But passengers, even those standing on nearby decks, hear a strange word repeated 3 times and have no idea what it means. That is intentional. Panic on a ship at sea is its own emergency. Thousands of people rushing to rails to look for someone creates additional danger. The code suppresses passenger response while activating crew response. It is a behavioral design choice embedded in how emergencies are communicated. The ship manages information flow to manage crowd behavior. There is something revealing about that detail. The ship is extraordinarily good at managing the passenger experience, at controlling what people see, feel, hear, and respond to. The ambient music, the lighting, the flow of the corridors, the placement of the casino, the timing of the buffet, all of it is managed, optimized, engineered for behavioral outcomes. When a crisis happens, that same management apparatus activates to minimize disruption. Code Oscar keeps the entertainment deck calm while somewhere in the water behind the ship, someone is trying to stay afloat. The Thanksgiving of 2022 produced a story that is worth sitting with. A man went overboard from a Carnival cruise ship in the Gulf of Mexico. He survived, nearly 20 hours treading water before rescue. He was extraordinarily lucky. A Coast Guard crew found him the following day. The ship he had fallen from had no automated detection system. The gap between when he entered the water and when a search began was hours. That story gets told as a survival miracle. It is also a detection failure. Now step back to the opening question. Someone falls overboard at 2 in the morning from a ship with an automated MOB system. The radar flags the movement. The thermal camera confirms a heat signature. The AI filters out false positives. The alert reaches the bridge in under 30 seconds. GPS coordinates are logged. The officer of the watch initiates the overboard protocol. The ship begins to maneuver. The rescue craft is readied. Crew members move to the relevant deck with lights and eyes on the water. Now the same ship without a system. Someone falls. No alarm. The cameras record, but no one is watching. The ship continues at cruising speed into the dark. The person's cabin mate goes to sleep. In the morning, they notice the absence. They call the desk. The crew searches the ship. They find nothing. They pull up hours of external camera footage and begin reviewing it. Eventually, they find the moment. The alert goes to the bridge. The ship is now 50 miles from where it happened. The Coast Guard is contacted. The search area is calculated, and it is enormous. Those are not 2 versions of the same story with different outcomes. They are 2 different systems, one built to know, one built to record. A cruise ship is sold as a place where everything is handled. The food, the entertainment, the logistics, the comfort, all of it optimized and delivered at scale. The hospitality infrastructure of a modern cruise ship is genuinely impressive. It represents decades of refinement across thousands of operational variables. When you are on one, the experience of being taken care of is real. But the question of whether anyone is watching the water at 3 in the morning has, for most of the industry, nothing to do with engineering. It has to do with what the regulatory environment requires and what the liability structure punishes. Right now, it requires very little and punishes almost nothing. And so the systems that could change survival odds, systems that exist, that work, that cost a fraction of a percent of what the ship itself costs, sit deployed on a small fraction of the global fleet while the industry waits for someone to make it unavoidable. The technology exists. The law technically exists. The money is not the issue. What hasn't existed yet is the consequence for not using it.